Hi Aquarius, this is Tisch Aitken, and this is your monthly report for the month of June. We begin the month in eclipse season, which means major turning points, major endings and beginnings, and rapid change in a very short period of time. Eclipses bring things to light so that we can see them in a way that we've never seen them before, and often they can be life-changing, and things can happen that have been brewing for a while, and then suddenly it's a boom, and things just explode and bring major change in that area if you've been avoiding it or maybe just not really dealing with it. But sometimes eclipses can come in and bring change that totally is unexpected and that you had no idea, and it can, change your life in a flash. And they can bring major beginnings and opportunities, but they can also bring loss and change. The ancients used to fear them because they are very ominous and unknown. It's kind of like Uranus, which is one of the rulers of your chart. Uranus is the unexpected. When you have a major Uranus transit, a lot will happen, and it can be very erratic and unpredictable. It can bring big changes and freedom and liberate you from something. It's whatever you think it often is something else. And eclipses are also wild cards in that they provoke a lot of change, but sometimes it can be completely out of left field. And it also is a very heightened sense of anxiety and activity. And as we ended the month of May, there was a total lunar eclipse that took place at 5 degrees and 25 minutes of the mutable fire sign of Sagittarius. And this occurred in your house of friends and groups. Maybe there was a friendship or is a friendship that you've been dealing with that has had some challenges or conflict. This was a south node eclipse, and often with lunar eclipses there is something we need to release. It's a full moon on steroids, and it brings things to completion. Maybe you've been working on a project with friends and it got to completion and resolution, but this was a very emotional time. Mercury, which rules the planet, which rules the sign of Gemini and Virgo, but is the planet of communication, was out of bounds during this lunar eclipse, which means that communication was all over the place in the sign of Gemini. And then Mercury stationed retrograde on May 29th at 24 degrees and 43 minutes of the mutable air sign of Gemini. Mercury loves being in Gemini, and it brings a lot of information, but it is a sign of duality, and Mercury is the trickster of the zodiac. So there can be a lot of confusing communication. And for you, all of these points in Gemini are transiting in your house of love affairs and romance and creativity, children, and self-expression. As we begin June, the Sun, which is ego and identity, Mercury, which is communication and mindset, the North Node of Karma, which represents karmic and fated relationships and circumstances, and Venus, the planet of love and beauty, are all transiting in Gemini. Venus got out of bounds as of May 23rd, which means that Venus exceeds the Sun's path by declination and is beyond 23 degrees and 20 minutes south or north of the equator. And this can bring more of a heightened and erratic energy with Venus. And all of these planets are in your house of romance. If you're single, your love life is a big focus in the beginning of June and in this summer, because this in June we have a solar eclipse that we're building up to on June 10th that will be falling in your house of romance and love affairs. But you're also in a huge time in your life, probably one of the biggest, because Saturn is transiting in your sign, and Saturn entered there, briefly on March 23rd of last year, and it re-entered Capricorn on July 1st. Then it re-entered your sign on December 17th, and it'll be there until March 7th of 2023. Saturn station retrograde on May 23rd of this year. And you feel that energy 5 days before and 5 days after. Saturn only got as far as 13 degrees of your sign, and it's going to be in Aquarius until March 7th of 2023. So you're working with it for a while. It can challenge you and test you, but it's a time of really figuring out what you want to commit to in your life. Saturn's transiting in your first house of self and new beginnings. This is a time of committing to you, committing to your goals, to relationships, whatever it is. This can be comprehensive of many areas. But Saturn is the reality planet. It's kind of like the judgment card in Tarot. If there's certain things you need to fix or deal with that you've been avoiding, this will keep persisting, particularly with Saturn. And, later in the month, Saturn makes a second square to Uranus. And those are both the rulers of your sign. And this can bring more chaos as you reinvent yourself in the new age of Aquarius. Altogether, I think this is a very exciting time in your life, and you are the star of the show this year. Although this summer, I think you're taking a backseat to Gemini because there's a lot of mutable air energy in Gemini as we begin the month. And we also have Jupiter and Neptune transiting in the mutable water sign of Pisces. Jupiter also has been transiting in your sign, but it took a brief tour into Pisces on May 13th, where it will be until July 29th. And for you, it's transiting in your house of value and income, how you earn money, and how you can expand your self-esteem. And Jupiter rules Pisces in ancient astrology, so it loves being there, and it's very creative, and it's great for manifesting and tapping into empathy and sympathy. It's really selfless love, but it also can expand emotions and confusion and the lower form deception or just a sense of wanting to escape. And for you, focus on how you can be creative, how you can add more value to your life. So as we begin the month of June, there are twists and turns all over the place. We're in eclipse season, major lunar eclipse on May 26th. Now Saturn is retrograde in your sign. It does station direct on October 10th at 6 degrees of Aquarius. So you're in a big review period now of how you can be more productive in accomplishing your goals. The more you work with this next 2 years, you're going to be very happy about that. You'll get big karmic rewards. Keep reminding yourself. And so we've got the beginning of the month. We've got a lot of planets transiting in your house of romance and creativity and inner self-expression, how you can express yourself and what makes your heart happy. On the 2nd of June, Venus enters the cardinal water sign of Cancer, where it will be until June 27th. And it's transiting, in your house of work and health and habits and daily routine. Mars has been in that house for you since April 23rd, and it's actually been out of bounds since May 21st, which means when a planet is out of bounds, it exceeds the sun's path by declination and acts erratic and unpredictable. Mercury was out of bounds from May 7th until May 30th, so even before it retrograded, it was acting very out of control. Now Venus is out of bounds until June 18th, so that adds more of this chaotic element to this really wild month for all of us. It can be very creative because it accentuates the energy of that planet. So for all of us with Jupiter and Pisces, with all this mutability, giving choices, there is a very creative access to us as well. And so we've got Venus in Cancer. Now on the 3rd of June, the Sun, which is transiting in Gemini in your house of romance and joy, makes a beautiful trine to Saturn in your sign. This can be good for bringing productive partnering, good for romance, and something that possibly could bring commitment. It's also good for structuring your creativity and productive meetings. That occurs at 3:05 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. Later that day, the two benefics are in harmony. Venus trines Jupiter at 7:33 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. Venus is transiting in your house of work. Jupiter is transiting in your house of money and income. This could bring excellent professional and financial opportunities and good for working with others. On the 5th of June, we have more challenging energy. That's a day to lay low. At 3:05 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, Mercury, which is the planet of communication, squares Neptune in Pisces. That can bring confusion and deception and misunderstandings. And for you, that is, that could be in relationships, but also financially, certainly. And because Neptune's transiting in your house of income. And then later at 3:45 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, Mars opposes Pluto. And those are both the rulers of Scorpio. And that can be a very aggressive and combative energy. It can bring conflict for you at work, at the workplace, whether it's disagreements or power struggles. So if you can work on your own that day, that's advisable. And then on the 10th of June, we have a solar eclipse that takes place at 6:53 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time at 19 degrees and 47 minutes of the mutable air sign of Gemini. And this new moon eclipse occurs when the moon is perfectly aligned between the earth and the sun, and it cuts off the light to the sun's surface, and it brings things to light. And a solar eclipse is always a new moon, so it's an excellent time for doing the law of abundance, for saying affirmations and setting intentions. Again, for you, all of this Gemini energy is in your house of romance and creativity and happiness. What do you want to initiate that makes you happy? What do you want to magnetize into your life? If there's something amazing that comes into your life out of the blue, seize it. I don't care if Mercury is retrograde or if the eclipses are a bit unpredictable. But if there's something that you want to initiate, I would wait, if you're able, until the eclipse energy wanes, and then Mercury will be direct as of June 22nd. But honor this initiating energy and the sense of new beginnings that is in your house of what makes your heart happy, and your house of love and joy. So that's a really nice energy. At 8:37 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time, the moon meets up with Mercury that day and helps us all to process the many messages that will be in this eclipse season. Again, with all this Gemini, the communication is off the charts. And then the moon goes void of course at 1:38 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. And the moon squares Neptune. So that adds more of the Neptunian energy of confusion. Some things may not be as they appear, or more of the energy of bringing things to light and uncovering hidden information and uncovering deception. The sun meets up with Mercury at 9:13 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time and brings more information that day. So that's a very intense day. On the 11th of June, Mars enters the fixed fire sign of Leo, where it will transit until July 29th. And it's transiting in your house of relationships and partnerships. Again, if you're single, you've got so much action and activity in your house of romance, but Mars is also where the action is. And for you, it's going to be in the house of relationships and partnerships until the end of July. It's also good professionally and socially, for networking, for working with other people and partnering in many different ways. On the 12th of June, we have challenging energy emotionally because Venus, which is the planet of love and beauty, squares Chiron, the wounded healer. Venus is transiting in your house of work and daily routine. And this could be difficult energy just around vulnerability. Maybe you're feeling vulnerable at work, or just the sadness we're all feeling after the kind of year we've had, and after all of these eclipses, this eclipse energy that's been so potent. Later, if you're Pacific Daylight Time, at 10:38 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, or at 1:38 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time on June 13th, Venus makes a helpful aspect to Uranus. Uranus is transiting in your house of home and family and emotional foundation, and it has been on and off since May 15th of 2018, when it entered the fixed earth sign of Taurus. This could bring chaos in your home life and a lot of changes and moves and new beginnings in your house of real estate, home, and family for the last few years. I imagine a lot has been going on in that area for you. And now with Venus sextiling Uranus, that could bring helpful solutions around money and relationships, but that is still tricky energy the few days after the eclipse, because later at 7:40 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, the Sun squares Neptune, and that could bring confusion around your value, around money, and just kind of tricky energy. On the, let's see here, on the 14th of June, we have a big aspect, very big for you. The two rulers of your sign square one another at 6:01 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. Saturn is at 13 degrees of the fixed air sign of Aquarius, and it's squaring Uranus at 13 degrees of the fixed earth sign of Taurus. This could bring issues with family and home. This is the second of 3 of the Saturn-Uranus squares. The first occurred on February 17th of this year, and that was when we had the big power outage in Texas. This could be explosive energy, very unpredictable, and for all of us, we're trying to structure the chaos to achieve our goals, and it's not all easy. We're morphing in a very new time and reinventing ourselves and inventing ourselves in a new time. So you will feel this strongly. It could be very chaotic with relationships, with family, and with getting your needs met, but it's a learning curve as we reinvent in this new age. And we have one final hit of these planets on December 24th, but anybody between 11 and 15 degrees of the fixed signs will feel the Saturn-Uranus square on the 14th the most strongly. And those fixed signs are Taurus, Leo, Scorpio, and Aquarius. And you certainly will be feeling this very intensely. So figuring out what you need to release in order to get your goals accomplished. On the 20th of June, we have 2 big events. Jupiter stations retrograde at 11:06 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time at 2 degrees of the mutable water sign of Pisces, and it will be in Pisces until July 29th. So we feel that build up 5 days before and 5 days after. And Jupiter is the planet of expansion and abundance, as well as higher learning, promotion, and teaching. And you're reassessing how you can expand your resources and your self-esteem, because this is a big, big time for you. And your money. This is a big money cycle you're getting a preview of. And later that day, we have the summer solstice, and that occurs at 11:32 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. That's when the sun is at its maximum declination in the sky, and it's at the highest point. This, in the northern hemisphere, it's the longest day of the year, and it marks the beginning of summer. In the southern hemisphere, it's the lowest point, and it marks the beginning of winter. The sun stops, and we reflect on what we want the next 3 months to be. And now the sun is transiting in your house of work and routine and being very busy. So you've got a lot going on. The sun and Venus are transiting there. And then on the 21st of June, Venus forms a beautiful trine to Neptune and Pisces, and that could bring you some very good financial opportunities and creative opportunities. On the 22nd of June, Mercury stations direct at 6 o'clock p.m. Eastern Daylight Time at 16 degrees and 8 minutes of the mutable air sign of Gemini. Now we've got Mercury direct, and we've got it in its dignity where it loves to be until July 11th. So that's helpful. And for you, again, it's in your house of creativity and romance. Good for networking if you want to meet people. Also excellent for all forms of creative projects. On the 23rd of June, it's a mixed bag. We've got the sun in Cancer trining Jupiter in Pisces, and that's a very uplifting energy and very optimistic. But realistically, there will be breakups, triangles, and power struggles that day because Venus in Cancer opposes Pluto in Capricorn. Venus opposite Pluto is definitely a breakup cycle, or it can be big fights with relationships. For you, that's occurring at work, so lay low if you're able. On the 24th of June, we have a full moon that takes place at 2:40 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, and it occurs at 3 degrees and 28 minutes of the cardinal earth sign of Capricorn. And this full moon occurs in your house of spirituality and dreams and messages. It's also the house of endings. This full moon sets off where the solar eclipse was on December 26th of 2019, and that was at 4 degrees of Capricorn. Pay attention to what the stories were that were occurring in your life at that time. Maybe they're taking on another level. Maybe you're learning some more information about that or reaching ending and resolution with it. And then on the 27th of June, Venus, which is the planet of love and relationships and beauty, enters the fixed fire sign of Leo, where it will be until July 21st, and it's transiting in your house of partnerships and relationships, and that's really nice energy. So a lot of focus on your love life with Mars and Venus transiting in your 7th house of relationships. Very much focus on partnerships, but Saturn is retrograde in your sign. This is a huge time in your life, as much as your social life is a huge focus, there's no question. It also is equally important to focus on what you want to build and construct in your life. This is a huge time, Aquarius. You're the rock star this year, so lead the way, and good luck, and thanks.